I think you would probably agree that you have found more truth by digging for it and putting in effort than by information that is more readily available and promoted.
Yes.
So
But there's also duality to that, which is called Occam's razor, which is probably the most easiest answer. Is probably the right one.
right, but
So
that's
there's two
actually
school. There's like two schools.
hold on. You're using Occam's razor wrong. It's one of the most misrepresented situations. Occam's razor, it was not intended. It's actually incorrect.
Well, it's
Occam's
like
razor.
simple, stupid. Is that what it's
That's not
supposed
true.
to be?
That's not logical in reality. Just because you want something to be simple doesn't make it so. Occam's razor is the misconception that people always go to, the convenience of thinking that something is always the simplest result. It's comfortable to think that way, but just because you have a problem presented to you and you can reduce it to what is the simplest solution, there is absolutely nothing in the numbers that promotes that as being the highest outcome. It's actually a misconception of Occam's razor. We're doing it inappropriately all the time. Things are typically actually more complex than when we initially look at them. If you're going to look at something at first glance, you're going to get a surface value assessment of it, and that's Occam's razor, the simplest solution.
Well, that's why they say likely, but it doesn't mean it's always true.
It's completely wrong. It's completely unlikely to be the simplest solution. People are using Occam's razor inappropriately. It's actually more likely going to be way more. Keep it simple, stupid. I like that idea, but that has more to do with still being hopeful, right? Keeping things organized. It's great for keeping things organized, right? But it's a misconception to think, like, I'm a tradesman, right? So if I walk into a boiler room and the boiler doesn't work, if I immediately go to Occam's razor and keeping things simple, I'm exclusively looking for what can be the easiest remedy. It doesn't mean that's the remedy. It could be a wildly complex problem. And I'm going to miss it if I walk in there and I try to troubleshoot from an angle of Occam's razor and keep it simple. It's just inappropriate to take that term and put it to it. It's like red is red and blue is not red. So you're describing a process that's very accurate in the appropriate way to troubleshoot and diagnose things. It's just unfortunate.
So my terminology is wrong.
The use of Occam's razor is incorrect there, unfortunately.
I want to know what it is now. Damn it.
It has more to do with being methodical. It has to do with the process.
Really?
So like you're taking a process and you're slicing it like thin, like you're looking at each single possibility. It's actually looking at every single thing.
So it's more like a probability question in the sense that, like, when you're looking at so many different things that you really have to I don't even know. I'm confusing myself right now thinking about it.
Yes, Rob, just think about it simply as you've been presented colloquially, right? Currently, you're using this term, Occam's razor, to mean that odds are, most likely, anytime something has an issue, it's typically the simplest solution. Listen to when you hear that. It doesn't make sense at all. You're generalizing that every time you have a problem, odds are it's the simplest solution. What? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it kind of does.
It could be way more complex than that at any given time. If it's simple, it's simple. If it's complex, it's complex. Occam's razor makes complex things simple when they're not. But that's the error of Occam's razor, is reducing everything to being simple for the convenience of it. I don't think that we are the first people to understand the value of human exchange. I think that we've just been distracted by things like mortgages and day-to-day operations, and that there's other factions that are happy to cause division and wield that. It's everybody's afraid to get out of their houses right now. They're afraid to engage in the old-fashioned way of communication, and now we're stuck to digitally monologuing for the most part. I mean, you and I are in real-time, live-time dialoguing right now, but that's still technically a rarity. Most people are jumping onto some social media platform, and that's monologuing back and forth. They're not engaging and they're not dialoguing. They're not communicating anymore. There's another medium that's digital that's an in-between. Technically, all the human beings are now communicating with something that's digital. It's not a human. That matters.
When you take the reality that you see on TV and debunk it for yourself, Or you take these mainstream thoughts or what people perceive to be mainstream thoughts, which for me and you are totally different in the sense that we know a different level and we know the underbelly of some of that too. But for people who don't dive into these things or these so-called conspiracy theories, which we know are conspiracy fact, but when you don't look into these things, when you don't open up your mind to that what you see in front of you might not be the actual truth, it's a solemn life, man. It's not the same as
I find that to be intellectually crippling for people to just accept what they're told on
that's
any level.
exactly right. You lose all thought process of your own free will and junction. Like,
because then at what point are your thoughts your own? If you're just going to believe what people tell you and continually do that, like it's for argument's sake, playing devil's advocate. If you were that person, right? If you were just simply taking everything everybody told you and receiving it and believing it, and now you're going to engage me in a conversation, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to everyone you met.
So true. So true.
And I see that nowadays in so many people I meet. I'm not meeting a person. I'm meeting the people they met.
You're meeting their superficial alter ego. Yeah, is what you're meeting.
Yep. They're not going to tell me what they think. They're going to tell me what they heard. Heaven forbid they calculate or formulate an opinion that they have to stand behind or support. No one wants to do that nowadays. They can't handle being wrong.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Iron sharpens iron, and a friend sharpens a friend.
That's right.
I heard that from another guy.
That's right.
That's a great poster.